Okay, so we are here on the bus for the second installment of the questions for the group members, and we had you submit questions in for Scott Howard, and Scott is with me here on the bus, and he's going to answer some of the questions that you guys have sent in. And Scott, welcome.
Thank you.
And yeah.
Thank you, folks. Please keep your seats.
So, okay, we'll get started here. The first question comes to us from Brian, Port Jervis, New York. Back when Roger was sick and you guys were adding to the program stories and such, you told about your dad and cornbread.
Oh.
I'd love to hear that again, and I know some that have never heard the story. Could you tell that for us?
Yeah, that is a great story. Just to give a little background of it, my parents actually had a little camp that was on a lake back in Louisiana that they spent a lot of time at. Mom just loved working in the flower beds and doing house things, and Daddy loved fishing, so it was a perfect setup for them. So this particular day, Daddy was standing on the bank fishing, and it was just about lunchtime, and so he had called up at the house and asked Mama what they were having for lunch. She told him whatever it was. He said, "Well, can we have some cornbread?" She said, "Well, no, I can't make cornbread because I don't have an egg." So Daddy was all disappointed because they weren't going to have cornbread. Well, if you know my dad, anything he's involved with is going to involve prayer at some point. So he said he just got praying, "Well, Lord, please, I'd just love to have some cornbread. If there's any way you could make it possible." He's fishing. So he said in a minute he looks, and here comes this mallard duck. She swims up there to the bank, crawls out on the bank, and right there beside him on the bank lays an egg. She gets back in the water and swims off. Of course, Daddy's telling me this story. He's just all choked up, crying about how the Lord had supplied this egg. And so I said, "Well, that's cool." I said, "What does cornbread taste like made with a duck egg?" He said, "Well, son, I wish you wouldn't have asked that." So, "Why?" He said, "Well, just as the duck laid that egg, just as I bent down to get it, it rolled off the bank into the lake and sank, and I never got it. So it was like the Lord almost supplied the egg, but the Lord just had the duck laying a little too close to the bank." So anyway, Daddy didn't get his cornbread, but it wasn't the Lord's fault that he didn't get it. It was the duck's fault. So that's the cornbread story.
That's great.
Somebody had mentioned that last night. That was funny that would come up.
That's great. Yeah. All right, so Anne from Montreal says, "Tell us about your experience in coming to know Jesus Christ."
Okay, well, I actually was saved whenever I was just a little young boy, 9 years old. And again, my dad was such an influence on me. He and I had talked, and I think he had kind of prepared me to kind of get my heart set so the Lord could work through me. But this particular day, he and I had been somewhere, and we were in the car, and I can remember telling him, "Dad, I think today's the day I need to ask Jesus into my heart." So he said, "Well, okay." So we sat down and talked a little more, and then we went from there to the church office. He wanted me to meet with the pastor. So we went to the pastor's office. He asked me a few questions, kind of make sure I understood everything. And what I remember most was he related this story about the man that worked for the circus, that his act was pushing his partner across the high wire in a wheelbarrow. And he would go back and forth across it. Of course, the audience would clap. And so then he would blindfold himself. And he asked the audience, "Do you think I can push this guy across in the wheelbarrow?" And of course, the audience says, "Yeah, we know you can do it." So he does it. So then when he gets the guy across, he asks, "Well, are there any volunteers in the audience that would like to ride in the wheelbarrow while I push across?" Well, of course, nobody wanted to get in the wheelbarrow. They believed he could do it, but not enough to get into the wheelbarrow. So the pastor related that story to me, in that, we know Christ can save us and take care of us and direct our lives, but we have to be willing to turn everything over to Him and get in the wheelbarrow and let Him do the driving. So that was that was a little simple story, but I can remember that and being able to relate to that and said, okay, I'm ready to get in the wheelbarrow.
That's a great example too. That's great. Now, Mary Jane has submitted a question here, and you guys are going to have to help me out because being a West Coast boy, I'm not exactly sure about this, but it says here, I heard or read a story about Howie standing on top of the bus with loppers. Now, what loppers are, I have no idea, but it says cutting limbs so they could get the bus down the driveway. I'd like to hear that story. So what are loppers?
Well, loppers in my world are like a big pair of limb cutters that you use like to prune limbs on a tree. And this particular story is back to the origin of Legacy 5. It was our first weekend out. We had gotten a bus and had never actually taken the bus to where our product is all located. We parked the bus there by my house. I've got a drive that comes in there that's lined with trees. There's a lot of limbs. So when we got ready to bring the bus out to the house to load product, it wouldn't fit down the drive because of all the limbs. So yeah, literally I did have to climb on top of the bus and blaze our trail down through there with these loppers. As a matter of fact, there's an article about that. Danny Jones with Singing News was with us on that trip, and I remember he kind of documented all that in an article early on in Singing News. So yeah, that's the truth.
And has Danny rode with the group since that point? Or
not again. No.
He never. that ruined him.
Once is enough. Yeah. No, that did him in.
Anytime you break out the loppers, that pretty much assures.
When you have to cut limbs and trees to get down somewhere in the bus, it's
pretty much.
People don't want to go back.
Okay, so this one comes from Donna, and she asks, when did you first realize you could sing like Willie Nelson?
Oh my goodness. Well, I honestly, I still to this day don't know if I can sing like Willie Nelson, but that was the thing that got started with this. We did this little kind of country style song, "Walk with Me," that we were doing, which is a Randy Travis song he recorded. And just one day, I don't know if it was during sound check or when exactly it was, but just in kidding around, I started singing one of the verses in a Willie Nelson voice, and Roger said, "Now that's what you need to do when we do this thing on stage." And I think he said it jokingly. So that night, just kind of to get a joke over on him, I said, "Well, by golly, I'll just do it." So that's what I did. I sang a verse as Willie Nelson, and people just really enjoyed that for some strange reason. I don't know why. And so that's kind of how it got started. But
and it's
a big hit with folks.
Yeah, it stayed with you because we still get requests for that song.
Yeah. So I don't know how much I really sound like Willie Nelson, but I guess people think I do. So that's good.
There you go. All righty, Howie. Thanks, and we'll talk some more.
We'll do it.
All right.